What's up, YouTube? I just want to share a little piece of my life story so that you guys might know that I relate to you somehow, some way. We're related. Anyway, this is my home, my lovely home that I built through trust, through recovery, through making meetings, through God, through accepting change in my life. And like I said, my story is not your story. Your story is not mine. But together, we can find some place of neutrality, right? So, let me just share with you a little bit of my experience, strength, and hope, and where I came from. First, I'd like to start with a poem that I wrote a long time ago when I stepped into recovery. It goes something like this. I call it Affliction. Say, due to my addiction, I lay in crucifixion, mind constantly racing, wondering how I put myself in this position. Not understanding where to go from here, my eyes trace an empty space. Now realizing death could take me from this place. Lying, dying in an RV that should be condemned. Just wondering where and when this punishment will ever end. The true meaning of misery is starting to kick in complete agony with every breath I breathe in. Pulling every ounce of strength together, I stumbled to a phone. Thoughts racing rapidly as I realize I'm all alone. Throat swollen shut and hands too bruised to use. My pride has been damaged and my sanity overused. 2 days in the hospital and a realization of needing change. I stumbled into turning point, never to be the same. They say everyone has a guardian angel. I wonder where mine might be. The closest I can get is an angel I'd like to call Ashley. And that is actually a counselor that saw the best in me when I couldn't see the best. And when I went in for some analysis or to get some anger management because my life had already spiraled out of control again, the counselor named Ashley, she looked at me and she said, "You need to come in, don't you?" And you know, I thought about it for a minute and I told her, "Nah, I don't need to come in. I just need some anger management. That's what I need." But the truth was, I did need to go in. See, I wasn't willing to accept the fact that every road I had been down had already failed. So, you know, my story starts about when I was 5. I can go back to 5. I was mentally, physically, sexually, all of this kind of abuse. That happened to me as a kid. I tore myself up, tormented myself about it. And the reality was this, is that none of those circumstances or situations that I went through as a kid made me an addict alcoholic. I chose that life. I chose to engage, and dwell in that life. Why? Because I liked it. I loved it. I didn't only like the drugs and the alcohol, I loved the lifestyle, right? But when I grew up with all of this abuse and seeing parents that used and drank and seeing family, all of my family used or drank, I didn't really know the difference at the time. You know, at the time, I just grew up seeing it. And I told myself, man, I'm not smoking cigarettes. Man, I'm not drinking beer. Man, I'm not going to be an alcoholic like him, like her, like that. I always told myself I'm not going to be like these folks, so what did I do? So, I became addicted to marijuana because it wasn't alcohol, it wasn't cocaine, it wasn't crack. And I also started huffing octane booster and doing inhalants at the age of 12. So my first years of drug abuse were marijuana and octane booster. So octane booster ended up putting me in the hospital with short-term memory loss. At the age of 13, I set my school on fire and had to go to prison for 1.5 years. As a kid, I got out of prison and still continued that life. So I once again shut my mind down, shut my brain down, because I couldn't stop doing the inhalants and smoking the weed. So when I realized that the inhalants and the weed wasn't going to work no more, I couldn't keep on doing that, then I'd start drinking a little bit more. So when I started drinking, then automatically drinking, I thought, man, drinking is not where I want to be, so I started doing cocaine. So now I got inhalants, I got marijuana, I got cocaine, I got alcohol. I got all of those things are just coming in, you know. I went back to prison as a kid. I ended up doing almost 2 years as a kid in TYC. When I got out of TYC, my stepdad had told me, he said, son, you're either going to work or you're going to go back to school. So I decided to work. What does an alcoholic addict do? Especially at 15 years old, I altered my birth certificate and started roughnecking on the drilling rigs. Perfect place for an alcoholic addict, because that shit was out there. Forgive my language. That stuff was out there worse than it was in the world. So now I could go out there and sell weed. Well, I roughnecked on and off for 16 years of my life. I say on and off because when I was 18, I went to the penitentiary. I'm not going to get into a lot of details of the reasons why I kept going back to the penitentiary, other than the fact that they was all around drugs and alcohol. So I went the first time for burglary. Burglary, probation, broke probation, blah, 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 blah. Same story, different person, right? So that makes a second time, because the first time I was a kid, second time I was an adult. Now, I went to prison at 18 and white with a 3-year sentence the first time. That was pretty hard. That was pretty hard for someone as me, being white, being 18, 135 pounds, new to that game. So, you know, I did that little stint. Then I got out. I think almost 2 years I did on that one. I stayed out for about a year, and I'll be darned if I didn't go out celebrating having my daughter and get thrown back in prison for violation with a new charge, which was felony DWI, which I think was my 3rd one at the time. So for that one, they gave me 5. I went back for almost 2. Got out. By this time, that makes 3rd time I've been to the penitentiary over drugs and alcohol. From choices I made in my life. Not choices that anybody made for me. It's not any of those things that happened to me as I was growing up. Those just became excuses. That's just the reasons I used to use it and drink it. So, you know, when I got out the last time, that was my 3rd time, first as a kid, 2 as an adult. Now, I'm in a spot where I believe I don't want to go back to prison no more. So, what do? Nothing different, really. I just kept working harder and was able to buy my way out of a lot of charges I got into. Now, in that little stint of time, I ended up getting shot 3 times. Well, actually twice. I got shot twice. One through the leg, and then I took a shotgun blast to the side of my face. I have a lot of scarring, and that's another reason why I put tattoos on my face. That's not the only reasons, but it is some of them. I was hit by 2 cars. Well, I, drunk, ran head-on my chopper through 2 cars on Maple Street in Odessa, Texas, and was drugged 4 blocks down the road. That makes the 2nd time or the 3rd time already that God could have just took me at that point in time, but for some reason God continuously keeps letting me alive. You know, I spent 3 days in a coma after that one. You know, even after that, even after I got in that wreck head-on with cars, 1 year later, I was fighting in the cage. Not UFC, but UFP. It's Ultimate Fight Promotions. It's another amateur cage fighting. It's a cage fighting setup. You know, I fought from 2008 to 2010. You know, and in that time, I ended up having my stomach blew out. So I had hernia mesh put in because I had 1, 2, 3 hernias from my stomach being blown out in 2009. So that ended the cage fighting for me, because you can't really fight with, you know, with mesh inside my stomach. I didn't feel like that would have been a success. And still yet, I still continued to drink and drug. Now, as I was drinking and drugging after this continuously, I started smoking methamphetamines because the pain in that stomach got pretty bad. I hadn't experimented a lot with methamphetamines because it just wasn't for me. I just didn't like to stay up a long lengths of time, and I couldn't hide it from my wife of 16 years, which we've been divorced since 2010, and I'm remarried to a beautiful woman by the name of Brandy now, and she's really helped change and alter my life. But as I went through that in 2009 of that surgery, and I started smoking the methamphetamines, quickly my life became unmanageable. Quickly, it was already unmanageable, but I was functioning, right? Because if we're not getting in trouble, if we've got money in our pocket, if I can drink, if my kids are taken care of, I got this whole list of things that tells you that my life is still manageable, right? Because I'm still able to maintain. That's called functioning. That's called functionality. That's called me being an alcoholic and able to function with day-to-day life situations, and it's not altering me. Now, does that make me not an alcoholic or addict? You know, no, it does not. I am an addict, alcoholic, just the same. The difference is I just want to keep hiding behind the fact that I'm telling everybody I'm not an alcoholic addict because I don't want to change. But when I started the methamphetamines, it changed for me. Now I have all the alcohol, the drugs, the marijuana, the cocaine, the crack, and now methamphetamines now have all of these drugs. It's hard to function. Even somebody that's as high caliber and as fast paced as I am, it's still hard to function. So what happened? I go to work on a drilling rig, and I'm just speeding through my life to give you guys kind of a one-on-one to let you know kind of where I come from. I'm speeding through my life. It's been almost 10 years since I got out of the penitentiary. I've been shot twice already. Not to mention 3 times being stabbed, a couple throat cuts as well that I didn't mention, because like I said, I'm going to take you through this life course pretty fast. So I go to work one night and I have some issues with a fellow on the rig. And the fellow comes up behind me and bashes my face in with a pipe wrench. When he bashed my face in with the pipe wrench, he grabbed my hair and slammed my head into a set of metal lockers. These metal lockers busted my face in 6 different spots. So now on top of all of those comas, all of those relapses, all of those drunk spells, all of those accidents I've had, I'm now in a coma. I sat in a coma for 2 days that time. My eye still hasn't gotten all functionality back at it. And half of my face still feels kind of weird. But it's not that bad anymore. From being smashed and having my face broke in 3 different spots. Why? Because I was drunk. I was speaking alcoholically to somebody. And I did not know how to respond to somebody of that caliber without resorting to violence, which I've been known to do my entire life. Well, 9 months on the couch. This is 2010 now. I finally get up and I've been using still on the couch and different medications trying to get better. Feeling myself, not doing what the doctor says. Drinking, drugging, smoking. And I get off the couch probably 6 months after that. The first thing I do is go find methamphetamines. I stay drunk and high. And then I go start stealing from folks. It'd been 10 years since I got out of the penitentiary. I thought I was done with it. I was now fixing to be 30. I got pulled over at midnight and was caught with every drug that I just told you about. Methamphetamine, cocaine, weed. I had beer in the car. I went to jail that night. That night I ended up losing my ex-wife and a lot of other things I don't want to go into detail about, of course, right now. But this was my 3rd strike. I should have been doing life. I'm 25. I thought that's what was going to happen. But a month, I'm going to tell you how God works. A month after I sat in that jail cell, a lawyer that I had no money for comes to visit me. I go to visitation and I'm sarcastic as can never be. I'm mean, mad, and miserable. I've lost all hope. And I tell this lawyer, he says, "You need my help?" And I said, "Sure, I need your help." He said, "Well, would you be able to pay me when you got out?" And I said, "Sure, I'll pay you." Yeah, 25 years. Yeah, I'll pay you. You're right. Yeah. He said, "Okay, well, give me a little while and I'm going to go work on this." And I said, "Sure." I went back to my cell and almost a month goes by and I get a visit. The lawyer's sitting there and he says, "Hey, I got this deal for you. I need you to go ahead and sign it and we'll go ahead and get you out of here." And I say, "All right, what's the deal?" He said, "I got you 16 months. How does that happen? 16 months. 3rd conviction. He says every drug that they caught you with was underneath 1 gram. So we're going to be able to keep it underneath the... Anyway, we're only going to let it be tried as a state jail felony." Oh my gosh. You talk about a blessing. So I signed the paper for 16 months of state jail. That makes time number 4. Done been to the kid penitentiary, adult penitentiary, and now I'm going to state jail. 16 months goes by pretty fast, or slow, whatever you want to call it. It's slow while it's happening, and it's fast now that I'm looking back and I'm saying, that sucked. The whole 16 months, everything that I ever had my entire life that I built as a functioning alcoholic addict was being picked apart piece by piece. So when I got out, I had no rights to my kids. I have 2 kids, boy and a girl, beautiful, and a stepdaughter as well. My kids, the custody was gone, divorce, everything, my house, my cars, my businesses, everything that I had was gone. So I walked in with everything, so I thought, and I walked out with absolutely nothing. Now for a normal person, this would be enough to straighten up, to get on the right path. But not me. Not me. So for 3 months, I got out in May 2011. November 19th, I had already, this was 5-6 months, I put myself into a drug-induced coma from doing so many methamphetamines, bath salts, K2, everything you could think of, because I had nothing to lose anymore. So why get right? If I ain't got nothing to lose, why not? Well, that's where the poem comes from. Because I woke up on a hospital bed, and I'm shortening the story, and my dad was standing there. My dad, which I love you, Dad. My dad has somewhere around 18, 19 years clean now. At that time, he had 5 or 10 years. My dad lives in a different state far away and hasn't been back to Texas because he is an alcoholic and he had to leave to get better. I woke up and over my bed was my dad, who hadn't been back to Texas, and I can't tell you when. And he looked at me and he said, "You gonna let this kill you, ain't you, son?" And at that moment, at that point in time, I made a decision. I made a decision that I'm tired of letting everybody around me down. I'm tired of going back to the penitentiary. I'm tired of hurting people. I'm tired of being that same old person that I'm tired of being. Now, went through Turning Point. I knew I couldn't get out of Turning Point and go back where I lived, so I made a change and I came to San Angelo to Sober House. This was 2011. I had a rocky first year in recovery. It was rocky. I had a couple relapses, a couple slips. I wasn't sure. I was still fighting it. But I knew that I didn't want that life no more. And everybody kept telling me, if that's not what you want, then continue doing what you're doing. If it's working, continue doing what you're doing. And it was working. The only time it didn't keep working is when I stopped doing what was working, if that makes any sense to you. The moment I stopped doing what it took to continue being successful was the moments that I took a drink or I drugged. This happened 4 times in my first year. Not perfect. But I knew right here that that was the last I wanted to do. That was the last that I wanted to drink and drug. I knew that. I knew I didn't want that life no more. And after that 4th time, I put it down. I put it down because it just didn't make sense anymore. The waking up to use, the misery, the disappointment, the agony, it didn't make sense no more to me. It doesn't make sense today. I see it every day with alcoholics and addicts. And every day I'm thinking, man, what can I do to help or improve someone else's chances of recovery? And the only thing that I can do as an individual is I can continue doing what I'm doing now. Is I can think of different ways to reach out and get my voice and my story heard. You didn't hear my full story. There's no need in it. You got the good parts. You got the parts that someone needs to know that, man, I'm just like you. We got the same story coming from a different person. It's the same story, different circumstances. Same stuff, man. It's all the same. There's nothing that I can do. I can't reach through the TV and grab you and say, enough's enough. I can't do that. you must be able to reach inside of you. I had to. Everybody that I know in recovery has had to reach inside of themselves and find and dig out that person that they want to become. And then fight each and every day to become that person that they want to be. That's what I had to do. That's what my wife had to do. That's what everybody in my life that has any recovery, sobriety, has God in their life, that is what they've had to do. They have to work for it. If I don't want to drink and drug, I don't have to. But I have to put as much effort into my sobriety as I do into my drug addiction. And only half. Because I don't have to put half as much action behind being sober and clean as I do going out finding the next fix. Or finding where I can get some alcohol after midnight. I know where I can get some recovery or some God. I say a prayer and be done with it. I say a prayer and then be done with it. I say a prayer, I say thank you, God, for being who you are for me. Thank you for the inspiration that you give me and you give me to give to other folks. To everybody out there on YouTube. To everybody out there in AA, to NA, to God, to church, everywhere. I reach out every day to speak some inspiration or to put some tattoos and some real person behind some real emotions and passions, because I have passion for this program. I have passion for the people in this program. I have passion for the people who haven't found this program yet and who are looking. And if you know somebody who's as passionate about their addiction or is passionate about things in their lives as I am, then show them this video. Then let them know they're not the only one out there who's fighting with drug addiction and drug abuse. With addiction. Period. They're not the only ones that's fighting because their kids got taken away from them. I ended up getting custody of my kids. Took me 2 years and I got custody of my kids. Looking like this with all these felonies, records, abuse, dying, dead. I got custody of my kids. I also got that job that people look at me and say, damn, man, I wonder how he works, or if he's got a job, or can he work even, or will anybody hire him? I've had the same job for 5 years. I live in a beautiful house that I worked hard for, and God gave me the ability to do so. Because none of this stuff I take credit for. Everything, even reaching out to you guys, is God has given me the opportunity to reach out. He has blessed me with the swagger of voice to where I can reach out and talk to people. I have an attention-getting skill. I can get your attention. That's what God wants in His world. In His happiness world. In His happy world. He wants people that can get people's attention. So listen, we're all the same. We're all battling an endless disease. If we are not steadily working on fixing this disease, guess what? The disease is working on destroying us mentally. And he still comes in to our thoughts. We still have weird thoughts. That's okay. What makes those thoughts different is when we change those thoughts. We ask for thoughts to change. We ask for God to intercede, to intercept, and to come in and help re-guide our thoughts, refocus, recenter us back into the program, back into God, back into some success. That's how we change them. And the more and more we start thinking about success, the less and less we start thinking about the opposition. This recovery and God life is a process. It's a process I'm willing to take and willing to go through. And I'm willing to go with you through it too. That's why I've started a channel, that God has had me start a channel, so that maybe we can go through this process together. This is an awesome process. This process is for young men, it's for old men, is for all men. If you're an alcoholic and you're a drug addict, and you know that you have a problem with alcohol and drugs, then find the nearest AA. Pray to God. Find somebody, reach out. If you know me, if you see me on the streets, come and talk to me. It don't matter. Come and say hi. Let's talk about some recovery. Let's talk about what it took for me. Let's talk about what it's going to take for you. And you know, to some of my subscribers that are watching this right now, man, hey, I thank you guys. Thank you guys for supporting me doing God's work. Don't forget to smash the like button on this. And don't forget to share this to other friends. You know, the only way we're going to impact the world is if we impact the world. We can't impact the world looking at it saying, oh, I liked it, I subscribed it, oh, it's good. No, man. Like, subscribe, and send that stuff to someone else. Send it via text message. It don't matter. It don't matter. Have you ever seen that movie, God's Not Dead? At the end of the movie, he says, I want everybody to grab their phones. Everybody's got 90 people on their contacts, and everybody can send God is not dead to each one of those contacts, and then each one of those contacts will receive the contact that says God is not dead. God's not dead. Reach into your contact list. Send this video to someone else. Let them wake up every day and start their day right in front of our YouTube channel that we're building together. Let them speak and hear morning truth and start their days with a smile. As I want everybody to start their day with a smile. So, text me to this. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of what I got to say, then smash that like button and subscribe today.